In this Unity tutorial, I'll show you how to create this patrolling enemy, which is procedurally made, so I can actually scale this down and it will still work. So let's get started. So all I have in this hierarchy is a main camera, a directional light and a ground object with a box collider. Now we'll right click again and create a 2D object, go to physics and create a square, which I will call the enemy. I'll make it red. Then I'll set them in the middle and add a box collider 2D and a rigid body 2D. Now we'll right click in the assets, go to create and do mono behavior script, which we will call enemy patrol. Open that up. In here we'll delete the update function and the start function. And then we'll create a public float called speed, which I'll set to 2, so the speed of the enemy. Then we're gonna have a public transform, which I'm gonna call ground check. This will be another game object which we have in front of the enemy to check if there's any ground under, or else it will flip and go the other way. Then we need a public layer mask for the ground layer. And then we need a private rigid body 2D, which we can call RB, and a private bool called moving right, which will be true in the beginning. Then in our start function we can do RB equals get component rigid body 2D. So we just get the rigid body from the object. Then we can add a fixed update function, like so, where we can then do rb.linear velocity equals new vector 2. And in here we'll first do a parentheses again, like so, where we will write moving right, question mark, 1, colon, -1. So this is kind of an if statement and it's called a ternary operator, where if this is true, then this will happen, but if this is false, then this will happen. And we'll multiply this with speed, comma, rb.linear velocity.y. Then in here, we'll also do raycast hit 2D, which we will call ground info, which we will set equal to physics 2D.raycast ground check position, comma, vector 2.down, comma, 1f, comma, ground layer. So here we basically shoot a raycast, or basically a laser, down to check if there's ground under the ground check transform, which is the game object which we're going to place in front of where the enemy is going to be walking. And lastly we'll do if ground info dot collider equals false, so there's nothing under the enemy. Then we'll call a function which we're going to call flip, but we'll create one function more before that, which is an onCollision enter 2D, where we'll do if collision.collider.compare tag ground. Well, then we will also flip. So let's now create the flip function. So we'll do void flip and we'll set moving right to be equal to inverted moving right, so basically just an exclamation mark in front of it. Then we'll do vector 3 scalar equals transform dot local scale, like so. Then we'll do scalar dot x times equals -1, so we basically reverse the scale to -1 and back to 1, so we basically flip the whole object. And then we'll do transform dot local scale equals scalar. And that's all there is to this script. Now we can go back into Unity. In here we'll click on the ground first, where we'll add another layer right here. So we'll click on the layer up here and press add layer, where we'll add ground as a layer, spelled exactly this way, just like we did in the code. Then go to ground and set the layer to ground. Now we can also go to the enemy and add the enemy patrol script over here. And we need to add the ground check game object, so we'll right click on our enemy, then create an empty game object, which we'll place at 0.75, so a bit in front of the player, and 0, which we will call ground check. Then we can click on our enemy again and drag the ground check game object, and let's also set the ground layer right here to ground. Let's now hit play, and now it moves back and forth. I can even scale this if I wanted to, and it will now keep on moving further. But yeah, that was all for this video. And also, if you have a hard time with all these Unity tutorials on YouTube, which I personally had when I started my Unity journey, well then I would recommend checking out the link in the description. In here I have created a community where you learn Unity way quicker. There's a course in there where you go from complete beginner all the way to an intermediate with only 46 episodes, where you learn to make 2D and 3D games. So if you struggle with Unity tutorials on YouTube, check it out.